Hello, everybody, and welcome to Highground Episode 7. I'm NewBeat, once again joined by streamer, Overwatch League coach, former World Cup coach, and a owner of a very refined Zarya bubble usage palette. Did I get that right? Tikatee? That's a very hard sentence to say. I've been practicing it for the last 5 minutes. So welcome, Tikatee. It's good to have you back.
Always good to be here.
By my casting partner a lot of the time, Ageless, who is also an enjoyer of music made by sad women. I think that's a fair intro for you, Ageless. And this week we are just overwhelmingly blessed with the appearance of JuggleGod with us. A man of many talents, JuggleGod is a multi-game caster who's casted high-level Overwatch for Open Division and many other orgs. He's a head caster for Organized Chaos, a world champion juggler who I definitely know has been on Letterman, I believe.
Yep.
An advocate for disabled people in the gaming and esports space, as well as LGBTQIA plus individuals and groups, particularly the non-binary and transgender communities, and also advocates for mental health. Hello, JuggleGod. It's great to have you here. How's it going?
Doing great. I am very, very excited to be here. It's been far too long since I've honestly seen all of your faces. So, yeah, good to be here. Can't wait to talk about everything, Overwatch and everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. We have a lot of stuff to cover. I mean, there's so much new Overwatch news. It's absolutely crazy. But one thing we do like to do at the beginning is just take a quick moment to say what's good, just going on for everybody. I know for me, I'm featured in a video playing D&D on YouTube. If you search Fablemancers on YouTube, you can watch me play a 20 level one-shot D&D with some very talented people. So check out Fablemancers on YouTube. I'm super excited about it. Ageless, what's good for you?
What is good for me? I'm going to Hawaii in a week. Really excited about that. So I am going to be away for a little bit of time. I'm going to miss, I think, a couple episodes. But I will be in Hawaii enjoying doing nothing, hopefully.
I don't know how we'll carry on without you, but I'm sure we will find a way. Tikatee, what's good with you?
I mean, it's hard not to talk about just Overwatch news because that's all I've been obsessed with. But I know we're going to get to that later in the show. I don't know, this new game came out and I'm obsessed with it called The Cycle. Have you guys heard about this one?
No.
It's this. Have you guys ever heard or played Escape from Tarkov? It's kind of like that, except without all the sweaty tryhard mechanics that Tarkov introduces, and it's a lot more accessible and it's super fun. And I've been having a blast. It's riddled with problems as any new game release is, but it's a ton of fun, and I've been grinding that whenever I'm not streaming, basically.
Excellent. I mean, anytime you take the sweaty tryhardness out of a game, I think that probably makes it better, but that's just my opinion. JuggleGod, what's been good with you?
I'm going to take a page out of Tikatee's book and talk about another game that I've just been so excited about. And that's Roller Champions. If you follow my tweets, you probably see me tweeting about it obsessively. It's an awesome new game by Ubisoft. Again, like Tikatee said, it's got its bugs, it's got its problems, but the devs are actually working real hard on it and being really communicative with the community in general. So I've just been loving that. I got to cast the biggest tournament in NA so far for it over the weekend, and it was just an absolute pleasure. And then to top it off, I got to cast the losers finals for the EMEA Open division. So that was just wonderful as well. So had an awesome weekend of casting, and kind of still riding that high from it.
That is awesome. I mean, I did watch some of the finals of that tournament. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch you because I wasn't up early enough for it. But I got to see Vulcan and Chef Billy crush it as well.
Yeah.
On their cast, and we got to see at least one team, Munich Esports, that was actually in the Questline Open. Trust me, looked great on tank, so shout out to him as well. And with that, we are going to start getting into all this news. But Aegis, I know this episode is going to be a little bit of a sponsor situation. I think you got going.
Yeah, so this week's episode is brought to you by the Diablo Immortal in-game economy and the painting robot in Hanamura that has been painting over some graffiti in Hanamura for 6 years, and it works about as well as the Diablo Immortal in-game economy. So that's our sponsors for this week.
That's
Do you think they're gonna adapt Hanamura for Overwatch 2? Now that 2CP's gone, do you think they're gonna adapt Hanamura and give him a new job, like a new spot to paint over?
Like hopefully like that, or maybe they fire the people who have been on the Nimbani airport.
Oh, true.
It's
been
the
a
train station.
I could have fixed that wall by now. So like, there's some maintenance that's been way behind.
It's just I've seen your
overdue.
carpentry skills. I honestly don't know. That's a good idea.
Yeah, but like something would be done. It would at least be like, some like bad plywood, kind of like nailed to the wall by now. So
Yeah, just try and just paint over everything.
yeah. So this is the bot. Yeah, it's been painting this graffiti like forever. So yeah, it is as effective as the Diablo Immortal in-game economy was our sponsors for this week.
Yeah, as effective as the balance changes they tried to implement for 2CP spawns as well. Definitely stopped snowballing. Good job.
Yeah, good work.
Yeah, it also
Now it's fun.
It fixed Paris and Horizon Lunar Colony.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the good maps. Like even
Wait,
the
which
good
one's
maps,
the good map?
not Horizon or Paris. Like the bar is really low. They're still bad, but they're better.
Yeah. Oh, not one in particular. You're just talking about the others that are left, like Hanamura and
The remaining few.
Volskaya and Anubis. That's it, I think.
That's it.
Those are the
there's
three. Yep.
No.
Maybe they should have left those the other maps in just to make the other ones seem better. You know, like.
Well, they left them in quick play for long enough.
It sucks
Oh,
with playing
man.
Anubis, but at least it's not Paris.
Yeah. Or just make
feel like-
everybody play HLC in Paris for a week. Like, that's it. And then release all the maps back, and everybody would be thrilled to have Anubis again.
That's true.
That'd be like a good April Fool's patch. You know, like the Sombra highlight intro where she like it's like shows someone else and then she hacks the screen. It's like shows that you're like loading into Paris and then it's like, oh, just kidding. Here's a real map.
That would be great. Yeah, that'd be
Nobody would know that's a joke though, because everyone's already left the lobby when they see Paris.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an Alt F4.
On site. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tikatee, as you mentioned, we got a ton of news this week. It just feels like good and like weird to have a bunch of new Overwatch news to kind of go over, and it's finally like here. We got an announcement for a date for Overwatch 2, and we have a reveal for a new hero as well, which I know Tikatee, you took a pretty good look at on your stream.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten too much concrete information yet. There's still going to be a lot announced coming forward, obviously. But yeah, randomly during the Bethesda showcase at the Xbox One panel at the Games Awards, we got to see a glimpse into Overwatch 2, the next cinematic teaser trailer showing Junker Queen. We got a teased look at whatever the Fox support hero is going to be. We didn't get much there, but we did get a pretty decent look at Junker Queen. She's going to be a tank. We got some solid information about her. We know that more information about her specifically is coming on the 16th. I'm hoping and praying and all my fingers and toes are crossed that we're going to get access to her in whatever the next wave of beta is. I'm also hoping and praying that that's going to be surprise, here it is on the 16th and we just get to play it. That would be a nice change of pace for some of Blizzard's announcements regarding Overwatch if we just suddenly got access. This was already a big surprise, I think. I don't think anyone was expecting to hear this on the 12th when they've been hyping up the 16th so much for this big reveal. So this was already cool. I'm definitely hyped about it. For Junker Queen herself, we didn't get a ton of look into her, but there have been a bunch of leaks online on Reddit from like a couple months ago, supposedly leaking her kit. And the unfortunate part is that she's like a new Roadhog. If the leak is to be believed, she just does damage. She's just a damage tank, and that's okay, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna wait and see. I still have really high hopes. Her design looks really cool. It's cool that they're bringing in a cinematic. When's the last time we saw a cinematic with the Echo release? Or with like the Overwatch 2 announcement. So it's been a while since we got some good Blizzard polished cinematics. So that's already hype in itself. And yeah, course, the biggest news probably for a lot of people is the official release date and Overwatch 2 going free to play October 4th. So early access release date. I mean, I would struggle to call the beta anything anything other than early access, but apparently this is now real early access starting in October, and I'm assuming that means that's going to be like the full release of the PvP, and that's going to be constant open access to it, no more beta waves like we're currently getting. So that's really hype. What did you guys think?
I just wanted to say I kind of agree with you, and I hope that it's not like early access is just another beta or this, that, and the other. Because at that point, it starts to feel like, for those of you who watch on Attack on Titan, right? They announced the Attack on Titan final season 3 years ago, and now
final season part 2.5. Yeah.
Season? Yeah, like what is this crap, right? Like don't do that to us, Blizzard. Don't do that to us. Yeah. Like yeah, you can only blue ball us so long. So let's
Announcement of an announcement.
Yeah.
The only thing I know about Attack on Titan is it almost gave me a heart attack like 3 minutes in with a jump scare. I just turned it off and that was it. So I guess I've missed that pain.
It is kind of reminiscent of how Overwatch has been released. Lots of changes in direction, random dry spells, and yeah, part 3 of the final season, 2.5, season 4 coming next year. All this kind of stuff all at once. But yeah, I think their announcement for like the early access release kind of thing is just them doubling down on, they have basically 2 teams. They have the PvP team and the PvE team, and they're getting PvP to us as quickly as possible. Obviously, they're already playing it in the Overwatch League, so they kind of have to get it to us so we can get our hands on it as well. So that's just exciting in its own right. And then whenever the quote-unquote full release is, I'm assuming that's just going to be whenever they're ready to put out PvE. And whatever this early access is, I'm expecting it to be the full game of PvP. And that's all Overwatch 1 is at the end of the day. So it's essentially the full PvP expansion into Overwatch 2, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't want to, let my last comment to be to in any way say that I am not excited about this. I'm thrilled about this. Oh my god, we've all been waiting so long for it, and I don't know about you guys, but it's just not the same going back to Overwatch 1 after having had that taste of Overwatch 2 and seeing what's coming and what's possible and what's happening. And yeah, I just couldn't be happier. This is what we needed. It's what we needed and more, right? Like you said earlier, with the fact that they gave us this teaser for Junker Queen on the 12th, right? Like we weren't even expecting that, and that's just great. More of this, Blizzard. Surprise us, keep surprising us. Also, where's Maga? I want to see Maga again.
For real.
The way things were looking a few years ago, it seemed like he was going to be the next tank that was released, not Junker Queen. So in some ways, it's interesting to me that maybe there's been a little bit of a change in direction there, but I still want to see what this hero is going to be all about.
Yeah, it's been interesting. It's been like, order a pizza. It takes 3 days for the pizza to arrive. Then they sit at the end of your driveway, and you can smell it, kinda. And then they bring you in one slice, and then just go back to the car, and you're like, okay. I'm still happy the pizza's here.
And it was a really good slice, right?
And it was really good. Please bring the whole thing in, or I'll fucking kill you.
It's a wild metaphor, honestly.
Also, people keep sneaking in with frozen pizzas and leaving them around my house. It's not good. I'm not happy about it.
There's a league of elite pizza eaters that keep sending screenshots of them eating pizza on stage, and it's just not fun. I can't eat the pizza myself.
Yeah, it's kind of taunting.
I tried lasagna for a while too, and you know what? That's just not my thing either. I want my pizza. I want my.
I'm really bad at eating lasagna.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Don't get me wrong. Lasagna's great, but it's not pizza.
Yeah. I want to see how far you guys can take this metaphor. Like you can take this metaphor.
I'll keep going.
That's crazy. Everyone seems to have forgot about the mystery Omnic though. Do you remember the mystery Omnic that everyone?
The one in the Doomfist cinematics.
Yes.
The Maximilian or whatever his name was.
Maximilian. Yeah.
In Havana.
I was thinking like some kind of like minion controlling hero would be so cool in Overwatch, where like you'd have like little minion butlers or like Omnic butlers that you'd like send off to do things around the map. I thought that'd be a cool hero when he was first teased, I guess, in that cinematic. But yeah, we've heard like literally nothing but all these little kind of like loose threads. And as much as I want to be optimistic and say like, oh, they must have been working on this since those cinematics. It kind of feels like the current Blizzard team is maybe picking up a lot of the pieces and doing what they can with it, which is also hype. I'm still waiting for Jetpack Cat personally. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that, that might come.
Oh my god,
might come through
a while ago.
That's when Brigida was being teased, and there was like a lore of her like workshop bench, and there was a jetpack for a cat on her workbench. I think that's like the whole story behind it. So obviously Jetpack Cat next hero 35 confirmed.
I was about to say in my head that Jetpack Cat sounds ridiculous, and then remembered we have like a hamster like piloting it.
One of the heroes is just a hamster in a ball. Yeah.
So I was like, wait, maybe I'll walk that back. It's not too crazy. And you mentioned Maximilian as well. I think isn't he the guy inside the limo in Hollywood?
Yeah.
Oh, is he?
I think
I thought he was just some Hollywood director.
Oh no, no, sorry. I was thinking of Havana.
Okay.
Oh, he was in Havana in the cutscene. Like they were trying to track him down in the PvE mission on Havana, right? That's what that whole mission was for. But he ends up getting away after Reaper kills their. I don't know. The lore is all over the place, man. I haven't even read the comic books. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, for a while there, I was trying to read the comics, stay up to date with all the lore. I was even like throwing in little bits and pieces of it to my cast, but at some point I was like, this is too much. I can't keep it all straight. Yeah. It's all fallen by the wayside now for me too.
Yeah, I've definitely used it in cast before, and people are like, who's Katja? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that
exactly.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything's cool. So Thursday is going to be exciting, right? They get that reveal announcement in the afternoon on Thursday, so we're all super stoked for that. And I think it's time we move on to a little bit of Overwatch League news, because there were a couple shakeups over the week. But one thing we wanted to kind of touch on first was the situation that's happening in APAC right now with the qualification. I don't know if anyone else read about this, but it's kind
of the bonus points, right?
Yeah, how they did it with all the points coming through, where I think it's Seoul Dynasty. They need they're basically into the next tournament already.
Well, the top four are basically the top four forever. Almost, it seems, right? It's pretty absurd. I don't know, just to go over basically in a nutshell what's going on is just like last year, teams get bonus points for winning games and placements in tournament. So just for making the bracket, they get a point, and then they get more points based on how they seeded in the bracket. But which is good for overall season metrics and who's going to make the grand finals at the end of the year. But these are also snowballing into the mid-season tournament for some reason. And then after the mid-season tournament, it's no longer working that way. I was reading a post on Reddit trying to explain it, and even with all these infographics, my head still can't really wrap myself around it. But basically, teams that made it into the kickoff clash are getting a boon to their chances of making future tournaments, including the playoffs at the end of the year. But most importantly, for the mid-season Madness tournament, that's going to be both regions coming together. And then that ruling kind of stops from here on out. After the kickoff clash, this is no longer a thing. So placement in the mid-season Madness doesn't get you into the next tournament. I forget what it's called. June Joust? Summer Showdown? There's so many from last year as well. So you don't get bonus points from the mid-season Madness, but you do for kickoff clash to get into mid-season Madness. And then from there, your placements are basically solidified towards the end of the year, especially in APAC, because there's so few teams over there. And because the brackets are smaller, it just makes the bottom basically 3 teams cemented where they are.
That's so weird. I didn't know that last little bit about the fact that the mid-season Madness, where they don't have those bonus points in this one, but they do for the kickoff clash.
I think they have bonus points towards the playoffs, but not towards the next tournament. Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and it really doesn't.
And then the Countdown Cup, the one right before the grand finals, there's no points at all.
Really?
That's what I was reading. Yeah,
everything is weighted to the front of the season. So because I read that same Reddit thread, and the math, if you know, whoever put this together, I forget who it was, but if the math is right, then you're absolutely right. Like, the bottom 3 teams are just locked out. And first off, I'm a Chengdu Hunters fan, and that pisses me off. Second, it just doesn't make for good competition or good esports or good broadcast or anything. And it stymies, I think, the development of the league and players as well. The repercussions just go so far with this mistake. I really don't, I like trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, but this is a mistake.
Oh, this is huge. This is like your bottom teams, are completely stuck. They're not going to make it into the mid-season madness. But then, like, they acknowledge that sucks and stopped it later, which is kind of bizarre. Like, so, and especially for like a team, for all of a sudden strength of schedule, it's not like, well, it all evens out by the end of the season. Now it's like teams like the Shock that came out and just kicked the dicks off these lower tier teams, and it was like, oh wow, they're looking super dominant against Paris and Vancouver. It is like, yeah, okay, whatever. Except that actually makes a difference now. Like, because they could get into the mid-season madness, and APAC's even worse. APAC, because there's only 7 teams, it's basically like, these are the teams that we chose because some of them stumbled out of the gate. That's it. Like, they're completely screwed.
Who was better when the gates opened? And that's just based on, like you said, strength of schedule is huge in North America. Not quite as much because everyone's kind of playing everyone in APAC at the end of the day. But meta defining, I think, is a really big deal. And you have like these teams with like rookie members that are coming in and trying to get used to team structure on a brand new game coming into Overwatch 2. And maybe they're not adapting to the meta in a month. I think that's at least a little bit understandable. Maybe they're not performing to their peaks. And it's just like, oh, well, good luck next year. It's seemingly counterintuitive to all things competitive integrity wise. And what baffles me the most is like they had a pretty solid structure last year where it was basically just every tournament had bonus points, and then those bonus points only added up to the end of the season playoffs. So all these individual tournaments, they were all individually seeded based on their own qualifiers going into it. They didn't care about the previous tournament. They cared about the matches leading up to it. So that had its own issues. Again, strength of schedule being a big part of it, where like seeds were completely different tournament to tournament just based on who the teams were playing in the couple of weeks beforehand. But it's still better than just snowballing whoever won the previous tournament into top seed in the next tournament for free.
Yeah, it's basically like we'll get rid of snowballing in 2CP. Instead, we're going to introduce snowballing in the whole fucking league. Is now you can snowball the Overwatch League.
Yeah, there's speed running.
You said that better than I could, because I was going to say like snowballing's a really good word for like Overwatch people, because we all know what that means, and
we all know how oppressive it feels.
You said that perfectly. Yeah, like this is like a season-wide equivalency of being like, 5 minutes down in Volskaya, and like you have a minute to like take the whole map again, kind of thing. And I mean, it's not fun for that like 5 or 6 minutes, let alone a whole year, or at least until the end of this season.
We've talked about this before with Blizzard, where like they do the like ranked game of like, oh, we just rolled them on the first point. Let's completely change our composition up because someone needs to increase their win rate on Doomfist. Like, this is like, we're winning. How do we make this an uphill battle? This is the classic Blizzard, like, let's make sure we completely change everything while we're ahead. Like, any win, they're like, but how can we fuck this up a little?
Well,
just enough to make people mad.
And like, I can't feel my foot. Guess it's safe to shoot it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can't feel it, it's probably fine, right? That's totally, this is definitely not an indicator of a problem at all. I mean, for me, it really bugs me because it doesn't promote any kind of like change for those lower teams. Like, once you're out, you're out,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no point in like bringing in new players, or like you've seen a bunch of NA teams switch coaches recently. That's not going to happen in APAC, or it might not, because why bother?
Yeah, it's so bad for APAC too, because up until this tournament, and I would argue even throughout this tournament, all 7 teams in APAC seemed competitively close, at least closer than the top versus the bottom in NA, right? Like, when you're comparing Glads to Vancouver, it's different cities, let alone different ballparks. So when you look at APAC, all the teams are so much closer. And this matters so much more for them because now it's like you literally need to win every single one of your qualifiers just to get into the tournament to play against the teams that you were going toe to toe with last stage. Like if you lose a wrong matchup, if you flip a set, if you get reverse swept at the wrong day, all of a sudden you're not making it in because Seoul did well last tournament, because Philly did well last tournament. It's insane.
It takes away all the storylines, like all the like fun, like can they make it back storylines? Can they improve? Like which team reacts to a meta change differently? It doesn't matter. Like a team like San Francisco or like Seoul could come out and just shit the sheets so hard in this second season or
as
in this
they've proven
tournament. Yeah, well, absolutely, and it won't even matter because they've already accrued so many points that it would be like embarrassing for them to be in the second tournament, but they've already won their way in by virtue of playing well early, which I think you know, I don't think anyone's doubting the shock, but they're definitely going to have an advantage on this, you know, the way they came out and played really strongly against not strong teams.
Yeah. This kind of happened with the Dallas Fuel last year. Do you remember where they didn't want to qualify for the June Joust, was it, or the last summer tournament in Hawaii, because they didn't want the rough travel schedule of flying to Hawaii for a week to compete in some games when they had already secured the #1 seed in North America. They were already like, they got everything they wanted leading into the playoffs. They'd get a bit of extra cash, of course, for winning the tournament if they went and they competed well. But like what that does to your mental, to the amount of time you had to rest leading into the most important games of the season, the playoffs, it's like, where do your priorities lie? And I think that's a bit of the disconnect between like what the league wants to do and what's best for the players, because at the end of the day, of course, players want to compete, but they're going to want to compete when it matters. If you just want them to put on a show because you scheduled these games, that's not good for competitive integrity. And again, I think this is pretty important for esports as a whole, I think, because a lot of people throw shade at league structures like the Overwatch League, like even like the Call of Duty League, because you don't have these sort of like 0 to hero runs anymore. It's not just, and this was pretty big in Call of Duty, not so much in Overwatch or many structured team sports. Sorry, Call of Duty, you're barely a team sport. But you'd have teams show up at LAN and just be like this group of nobodies, or this group of unsigned kids for the most part, and just absolutely tear through a bracket and take down the champs for absolutely no reason sometimes, and just kind of pop off on the day. Obviously, that's not going to happen in the Overwatch League. You can't just sign up and show up at a tournament. But for these lower performing teams, that dream is like, again, just kind of being snuffed out because of arbitrary rule changes in the way points are structured. It seems it's just counterintuitive and non-competitive.
If I was a franchise, like if I'm a franchise that like just didn't make it into the tournament, like barely, I'm mad as hell, because like it's not even like just the teams. It's like, yeah, so the teams get screwed, everyone gets super boomed, but if you're like one of the team owners, you're basically also locked out from winning additional prize money, because it doesn't matter how well you do in the second part of your season. There's a whole bunch of other consequences to this that are so confusing, just because it's so inconsistent. Like the fact that the kickoff clash affects MidSeason Madness, but nothing affects Summer Showdown, and then also the Countdown Cup doesn't exist. Any of this. Like, why is every stage different through the whole season?
That's the weirdest part to me. It's like they got 4 different people. Like, hey, give me your best ideas. But it was like, so they're like, okay,
let's do it all.
We're gonna take something from everybody. We're all gonna contribute. And like, I just don't know if that's the best. Like, it's insane that there's one tournament that's like not a tournament and has no bearing on anything else that's happening around it.
That's the one where everyone has played. That's like the end of the season. That's when everyone is used to Overwatch 2. The kickoff clash, when everyone was like, "Here we fucking go.
Let's roll the dice." Yeah.
Let's learn this game. Like, fuck it, we'll do it live. Is the one that affects like half the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like the Blizzard just decided, or you know, it is Blizzard who's in charge of the Overwatch. Like, they just decided to play strat roulette with the entire league. Is what it really feels like. You know, they were like, "We're out of ideas. Spin the damn wheel," right? Like, I don't know.
To me, it feels like just like an email chain that didn't get read by all the members before it got approved. And then by the time it's actually going through production, it's like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. And then like 5 other people start chiming in with ideas. This I hope doesn't mimic what's going on between the dev scene and why they've been going through so many delays in putting out content. But like, there's too many ideas going on. I think we said it all, but there's too much going on. None of it really works together, and at its core, it seems a little bit nonsensical, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
I've definitely been in those email chains where like somebody calls me Alex and I'm like, what are you doing? My name is in the email. How are you screwing my name? Like, you clearly read none of this. It's truly a bizarre decision by them. Another decision that was made this week, this one by the Toronto Defiant, is they released KDG, and it definitely sounds like, from what we're kind of hearing, obviously you can't 100% say what happened, but it definitely sounds like there were players, particularly Logix, that did not care for KDG too much at all.
Yeah. Who wants to touch this one?
So I could start this off. There was an article on .esports by Liz Richardson, and I really liked how she worded some of this, because she actually talked about something that Logic has said. And when Logix commented and said, "Thank fuck it took you long enough," indicating that, and this is the biggest understatement I've ever heard, and like journalistically, obviously it makes sense why she would have to word it this way, but I just find it funny, is indicating he was likely unhappy with his time under KDG's coaching.
There's a chance.
I'd say Logix probably wasn't happy if that was the wording that they used. Once again, thank fuck you took long enough. So yeah, it sounds like there were people that definitely weren't a fan of KDG's coaching. And I remember when KDG came over to the Defiant, and it was like a huge deal for that. They're like, "Oh, this is such a great pickup. They're gonna do like a whole bunch of work," and it obviously never really panned out that way for the Defiant. They're still like a mid-level team at best, and they've never, even with some very good players like Twilight, they've never been able to break through.
Our favorite Hotba.
Yes.
Yeah.
To give a bit of context behind the tweet from Logix, my understanding of the whole situation is that resentment, what we'll call it, is because when KDG was forming the roster on his first year of Toronto, which was last year, right? After he came over from Philly, Logix was meant to be on that team. Logix was already on Toronto, and they were going to restructure around him. And Logix personally recommended KDG come over under the promise that KDG had told him he wanted to build a mixed roster, proceeding by the rest of the season being filled by a full Korean roster, Logix not being perma-benched, but struggling to perform in a basically, other than himself, full Korean roster. And then there were some things that came out which kind of dictated some poor structuring going on behind the scenes in Toronto, where there were apparently 2 separate Discords being used by the team, one with everyone that no one used, and then one with just the Korean players and staff, where they actually talked about team strats and scrims and practice and things like that. So obviously Logix being left out completely on the cold during an entire season in the Overwatch League has a few reasons to be a little bit sour at heart over KDG, and definitely not happy with the way things were structured in Toronto. Sounds outrageous that this was happening within a professional organization in the first place, but seems like Toronto is looking to make some changes and maybe finally acting on some of that stuff that came out. I don't know if any of that's true, by the way. That's just everything that's been told online. I don't think any of it was like confirmed or denied by the org itself. I don't know. I mean, why would they? But that seems to be the account of a lot of people that have stepped forward from that situation.
I think, hearing a lot of that backstory, which I wasn't aware of, so thank you for that, Tikatee. Hearing that, in addition to kind of like the tone that Logix took, right, in his tweet, which was like, finally, right?
Yeah.
That makes me question a lot of what's going on in the upper levels of the Toronto Defiant organization as well, right? Because it's clearly something. If something's been wrong, it's been wrong for a while, it sounds like. And yeah, kind of what took them so long to make this change, right? I mean, you know, better late than never, of course, but I wonder if some more changes are in order for Toronto, you know, to just help create what hopefully can be a better, healthier atmosphere for the players, and I would think a lot of the organization as a whole.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if this has been like in conversation before the season started, and they were kind of like giving KDG a chance to turn things around, change the narrative, and then they weren't happy with the results, so they moved forward with it. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting about the timing of this announcement. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm feeling the same. Like it seems like it was kind of like, all right, you got one more shot here.
And yeah, do or die.
Yeah.
I mean, they made it into the tournament, I guess. That's something, but yeah.
They had a decent performance, but it always strikes me when these kind of things happen in orgs, because it's like, it's not like nobody higher up knew about it, right? Like they must have been aware that these problems were happening. So it always kind of bugs me when it takes a long time for the org or whoever is kind of in charge of these moves to make the move. Like you said, Tikatee, yeah, maybe they were trying to give KDG one last ride and see if he could figure it out. But I don't know, if you're like, happen like and you have something to do about it, I don't understand why you wouldn't change it sooner.
Yeah, if you're go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, one thing that I do wonder is whether there is something to do with visas as well, for especially the Canadian teams who we've seen be a little slow to make changes. I do wonder if, like, I know
Hello, everyone. We are back. Look at that. Yeah, magic trick. We disappeared. Now we're back. Juggle, I'm sure, Juggle, you must know some magic tricks. I feel like you're just the kind of person.
One.
You know what? Well, that's more than me, so you got that going for you. Yeah, just to wrap up that last little bit, KDG, that's so hard to say, drop by Toronto. It looks like they will be moving forward with an interim head coach for now. And we'll see what other choices and moves they make in relation to that. Moving on to the Shock, they finally picked up a second tank as Mikey is part of the squad now.
Yeah, I'm wondering, have you guys followed Mikey? I haven't followed him as a player much, but being throughout the contender scene, do you guys know a ton about him? I know he's known for his ball play. That's about it.
That makes me happy. Yeah, he was. If I'm remembering correctly, hold on. Let me. I want to pull up his Wikipedia again, just so I make sure I'm not getting this wrong. But if I remember, he was a part of Maryville.
Yes.
Yeah, most recently.
Yeah.
Which of course is where Kalush is coming in from as well.
Exactly. And you know, I think a lot of eyes are now looking at Maryville, right? If they weren't before, they certainly are now, and it's for good reason. He's a fantastic tank. Loved watching him play. And he's been a mainstay in contenders since early 2020 as well. Before that, he was still competing starting in, it looks like 2019 or so. But he had a very rapid rise to prominence in early 2020. So it's just great to see a lot of these players who have been, you know, kind of caught up in the churn of contenders and, you know, top collegiate Overwatch for a while, getting their shot at the Overwatch League. I think there's a lot of it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's clogged up near the top, right? I think there's actually a lot of contenders talent, a lot of collegiate talent that really deserves a shot at the Overwatch League. And, I'm hopeful that finally we're starting to see a lot of that happen now. We're starting to see some upward mobility from these players who, I think just really deserve their shot, really deserve their chance on the big stage. So I'm thrilled about this. I'm thrilled. And, this also, I think, goes into like Reiner coming in as well, right? And having a massive impact, right? Again, top collegiate player, top contenders player. And, eyes, I think, are really looking to the tier 2 and collegiate scene now a lot more than they were. So makes me happy to see.
And
Yeah,
I think churn's a
absolutely.
really good word too, because I'm just looking here on Wikipedia, and Mikey has played for about 11 teams in the past 2 years and a bit. So that is like how do you keep it together and still play at a high level when you're on a different team seemingly every 2 months? Like
You're just good. Like
Strong mental.
We've seen that with a lot of teams. Like even when we had the quest line open, people were like, "This is nuts. GeForce has been together forever since like November." And this tournament was in like March. It was like, and that was like the narrative was like, yeah, huge advantage for GeForce. They've been together for like 4 whole months. That seems to be kind of the norm. I don't know how, but it seems to be the thing. I do think the strength of collegiate Overwatch is on that strength though, because it is like, oh my god, this team's been together for 4 months, but having that consistency as a college team where that advantage comes from. I think is either you have someone who plays on the team for a few years, even if it's like only 1 or 2 players, that synergy is there, and it provides that kind of backbone and that infrastructure for the team, because it seems like everyone's hopping teams, but if there's something that's constant, it helps. And we have seen college Overwatch become a lot more prominent, I would say, in the last couple of years as far as like feeding into the league. Before it was kind of like your random orgs, the different contenders teams that were just kind of like groups of people or companies or brands or whatever. It really does seem like the college scene is much bigger, which makes sense. They have the infrastructure. It's not a lone org that's like, oh, if we don't make money this year, we're folding. There's a bit of a safety net there, and I think that's where we're seeing that consistency come from.
I think the collegiate scene, like you said, we've seen it grow a lot over the last couple of years, and I honestly, it sounds cliche, but really the collegiate scene for esports in general, I think, is the future, right? Because like you said, you have that infrastructure there, right? You have the opportunity to consistently work, with a coach, with a team over a long period of time. And I'm not talking just 4 months, right? I'm talking 6 or months or a year, right? Like, and that kind of consistency, not only with who you're playing with, but who you're playing against, and the just the support that these players can get is tremendous. So I think over the next several years, probably being honest, probably over the next decade, 15, maybe even 20 years, we're going to see a big increase in the focus on collegiate esports. And I think it's going to be one of the healthiest things just for esports in general.
I think it's going to be healthy for the players as well. Like, because with a lot of these teams, it's like, oh yeah, if you could just like scrim 10 hours a day and then go home, and if you would like to eat, you should probably stream. And you have to win if you want your $20 from each tournament. But I think tying it, like having it in collegiate, so these are people that are getting their education while they're playing, is I think really, really interesting and a really healthy way to be approaching the game. Like, yes, they're still putting in a ton of time, they're still putting in a ton of effort, but these are people that are going to university. Which I think is really cool. And it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna drop out of school and play video games pro. Like, you don't have to make that choice. I think not needing to make that choice is actually a really interesting way for esports to grow in general, by becoming a more healthy thing that you can do, like, for your life. You don't have to like know life shit anymore. You can go to school. You can actually get your school paid for if you're good at video games. It doesn't have to be a choice.
Yeah, I think it legitimizes esports to a point, right? Like if you can say like, yeah, I have a scholarship to Maryland University or Maryland College, whatever it is. Just confusing all the Americans out there by calling it university over and over again.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's just crazy to like have that paid for, and then you can be like, look, this is like a skill like that I have, and it's the same with like any traditional sport. Like it helps with team building, it helps with problem solving, it helps with other life skills that will help you even when you're not playing the game.
Yeah, and I think you know, if there's any collegiate programs out there listening or you know rewatching this later, I'd also encourage you know to really invest in the education and the support of the production side of things as well, right? Because that's you know a career in esports doesn't just mean being a player, right? It means being a caster, being a producer, being an observer, being a social media manager. The list goes on, right? And if you know, if colleges collectively can start to foster, you know, this kind of supportive environment for just the whole breadth of esports, it's only going to make everything better.
Absolutely. I think we've done tournaments where that was clearly not the case. Where like the players were awesome, the casters were awesome, the production was clearly like someone had used OBS before, and like it always kind of shocks me to not see more of that. And you know, it seems like the casters for esports are often people who are interested in esports, and less so people who are in like the broadcasting program at that college, which kind of surprised me. And the production was not people who are in the broadcasting program at that college, which you know I kind of get. Like, yeah, you're in a broadcast, you probably want to be in TV and stuff like that, but like the skills transfer pretty well. Like we've worked with like Patchamari League. Solomon's an absolute monster on production, and it wouldn't be a stretch to see Solomon on a regular sports broadcast or on any kind of broadcast. They're so good at this, and I think you're absolutely right. There's so much of this back end infrastructure that the same way that it's like when people go to school for like theater. There's always like a handful of people who like go to school to be an actor, and then they get there and they're like, actually, I really like lights. You know, I really like sound. I really like the production side of things, and they end up taking up that career. And I think you know, backing up
esports has the same potential.
Yeah, absolutely. And like especially now when it's like we're doing this with OBS. You know, we're using free software. We're using Video Ninja, which is also free. We're using Discord, which is free. It's never been easier to get into broadcasting in you know with a fairly professional output, given what absolute you know amateurs that we are.
like Ageless, like you and I and Harvester have been doing this for like 15 months total since we started.
Total, and the first 3 shouldn't count.
I don't want to go back and watch those streams. Let's put it that way.
Do it.
It's probably pretty janky.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harvester's in there. You're like, hell no. Like, don't do it. Don't go back down that rabbit hole.
Well, we, you know, this has been a wonderful tangent. And like, I want to say, bringing it back, Mikey. Again, getting picked up by the shot.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's where so first off, thank you, Mikey, for like giving us this tangent to go off on. Right? I mean, it's just been fantastic. But yeah, I think this is wonderful, and you know, maybe this is me just with my flavor of copium, but I'm hopeful that Mikey getting picked up, being such a talented wrecking ball player, that maybe we'll see him come back in Overwatch 2. Maybe some way, somehow, he will find a place in the meta. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen until he gets a rework or a change or something, but, you know.
Yeah,
that's
Mikey,
my little bit of
Joker
copium
Queen
there.
one trick.
Yes.
For sure.
I mean, they can just go full of like Chengdu Hunters with Amon and just be like, we're only
Yeah.
running Wrecking Ball, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think-
Because you have Kaluge, but
Like,
I don't want to.
struggling on like Rhine and Rush and stuff like that. And I do wonder if they're hoping to have, because like, Kaluge is an absolute monster off tank and picked up Winston really well, which doesn't really surprise me. Like I feel like Tikatee, you've talked about Winston plays much more like an off tank in Overwatch 2. I think Kaluge definitely kind of exemplifies that. He is pretty solid Winston player, given that until 2 months ago he's playing like Diva, Sigma, basically exclusively.
I think just looking at tanking in Overwatch 2 in general, there's kind of been like this debate is like, oh, are like our main tanks better, our off tank in terms of like the players, are off tank players better, our main tank players better? Is it flexibility? Is it mechanics? Like is it shot calling? What's the skill set that goes into Overwatch 2? And I think it's really a combination of everything. And the fact that Kaluge is able to look like, at the very least, like he's not holding his team back, and also being able to make stand-up plays on a hero like Winston, which he's not known for, I kind of think shows his level of proficiency as just a player across the board, regardless of hero that he's put on. And I'm definitely guessing that the Mikey pickup isn't to sort of subvert anything that Kaluge has been showing well, but to, like you're mentioning, like fill some of the gaps. Like maybe his Rhine and Rush specific metas isn't as strong. Maybe he's not picking up Doomfist as quickly as some of the other tanks, and maybe Mikey will be able to. Wrecking Ball is this whole other abomination tank that's just existing in its own parallel universe. I'm unfortunately JuggleGod. I don't want to be too much of a downer. If as a solo tank, I don't think
you're not wrong.
I don't think he's allowed to exist in Overwatch 2 while Sombra's also a character. I just don't think you can do that.
No, I mean I tried forcing him during the beta, and just I ended up dropping him as much as I love him.
Even with less CC, he still struggles a lot as a solo tank.
One of the things that we saw though was that teams that need to swap tank players to give specific looks struggled really hard against teams that didn't. Like Reiner came out and played everything pretty serviceable, and Dallas just ended up kind of telegraphing what they were doing. Do you think that is more of a team weakness, or do you think there is some merit to the idea that you need to be able to play them all, and if you can't swap to any tank, you're screwed?
To give a lame answer, there's not enough data to conclusively say. But to give my educated guess, I think it's a combination of teams playing too predictably as a whole, not just because of tank players, or not just because this tank player's in and they need them in because they're the shot caller, like some people have been speculating about Glads with Reiner. I think it's that Glads are the most flexible team and have adapted to the meta the fastest in North America, and they're able to show that with multiple tank picks. And every other team is hyper focused on like shallow Overwatch, where they learn one composition, they learn the ins and outs of it, and that's their composition for this meta until they can cement themselves as comfortable with that one composition and they feel like it's worth it to branch out into other stuff. There's sort of this period anytime a new meta develops where if you can't do it perfectly, you don't try. So if you can't mirror Winston comps, if you can't mirror Doomfist comps, if you're the Dallas Fuel and you feel like the only thing you can do perfectly is Zarya, then you just play Zarya everywhere. I don't know if that's because of a dependency of Hanbin over Fearless, for example, and they have played Fearless Winston and they do look significantly worse, but I don't know if that's because of Fearless's Winston or because of we understand Zarya the best. You know, there's not enough. There's too much to go off.
Like Fearless looked so good individually on Winston, and the rest of the team just fell apart.
Yeah.
They were just like sobbing in the back of Gibraltar, like huddling around the mega pack, being like, please come back. And Fearless is juggling like 7 members of the other team. Doesn't matter. And they're still losing. Like Fearless looked so good. He looked,
and Fearless was the one leading them last year through an extremely dominant entire season on the main tank as well. So I got no doubt in my mind that Fearless absolutely knows what he's doing on Winston, absolutely is a good shot caller and team leader. But exactly that, like as a team, they don't have the depth to fully execute the same way they can with the Zarya based composition, so they just lean more into that. Glad's being the exception. They picked out a new composition on every map they played in the grand finals versus the Fuel, just as an example, and they rolled them on every map. So it's going to take some time, and I think by the end of the season we'll have a better idea. But I do think we will see more teams finding success with hero-based player swaps. I think it's just too early right now.
Oh yes, another classic Overwatch final where one team just rolls the other and it's not even close.
Yeah.
It seems to happen every time. But we're gonna move on over to the Big Apple for a minute, to New York. They made a couple moves. They released Vulcan, so Vulcan was on their roster for a little bit. I think he had a 30-day contract. He never actually made the stage, but it looks like he has been released as well. So we won't be seeing Vulcan for the Excelsior.
I didn't know much about Vulcan, but this is definitely like, it feels like dystopian that teams can just be like, yeah, you're signed, just kidding. And then and then just like let them go and no one kind of bats an eye. It's already been really disheartening seeing like players drop this early in the season. Like, I mean, Psycho from the Vancouver Titans is probably the most recent and most prevalent example of this. Of like, okay, you didn't prove yourself in 30 days. Better luck next year. Unless a team decides to pick them up mid-season, which we haven't seen too much of that. I mean, we got Mikey now, of course, but we haven't seen too much of that happening. Maybe that'll change as the season develops, but it's weird. It's like these teams can almost get away with anything. And I know this was going to happen because this was like part of the deal when they signed Vulcan. Obviously, it was a very much trial basis kind of thing. And it's good that teams have some flexibility. It's not just like, okay, here's this player for the next 3 years. That would also be bad. But I don't know. It just feels weird to see this kind of just come and go. And we didn't really get to learn anything about Vulcan. NYXL did nothing to promote him as a player. Didn't really, with how good their like graphics and their branding is, they did like nothing that opened my eyes to Vulcan, which felt like a big missed opportunity, obviously for him as a player, and then not being able to see any stage time also hurts. But hopefully he'll get his chance somewhere else. I'm sure, obviously, if NYXL was even considering him, he's a pretty good player and he knows what he's doing. And I wouldn't be surprised to see his name pop up on some contenders rosters moving forward when that gets underway. But yeah, it's just a weird vibe for me all around.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, like you, I don't really know a whole lot about Vulcan, but just the fact that he didn't get any time, any stage time, I think is, just first off a real shame for him. But also I think it's, it says a lot about how much I think teams like NYXL have invested in player development, because I don't think really assess a player until you put them in a position like that. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he got there and just shit the bed. I don't know, right? Maybe it was like, we got in here and it was like, oh shit, you're actually a Valorant player. Our bad. I don't know, right? I mean, of course that's ridiculous, but the point I'm trying to make is that you need to allow for players to have opportunities to prove themselves, and I don't think he got it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame, and there just has to be more investment in player development.
I think it's worth mentioning that this was already a weird signing, considering the entire roster is full Korean, and this is an American player we're talking about. So I can only imagine there's some language barriers there beyond other things. It's just weird that they were signed in the first place when they were during part of their building process, I'm guessing, and just never ended up exerting that option.
Yeah, this was NYXL's version of the APAC point system, is what this was.
Not only was he the only non-Korean player on their team currently, I looked back through Wikipedia. He's the first non-Korean player that's ever been on the NYXL roster. Like, it's
that's something.
Only been Korean players for NYXL. So
what was that plan?
So that seems like they might have put him behind the 8 ball a little bit, like language barrier wise and stuff like that. Like all the coaches are Korean, all the players are Korean.
What kind of KDG behind the scenes separate Discord?
Right?
Separate Discord, separate Discord energy.
They wouldn't need a separate Discord. They're all, like, everyone.
He only gets DMs. He doesn't get to join the Discord. He has to DM the coaches.
You know what I want to see now is I want to see a team with Logics and Vulcan. That's what I want to see now. Actually, based off of this.
I'm just thinking of like a redemption arc, like those two, maybe like throw in like I don't know who else, like Kaguri maybe someone. It just kind of like a whole just a whole redemption team.
Right,
Team
right.
redemption. Yeah, I like that.
That would be amazing. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
If there's ever been an argument for a players union though, like watching players like Psycho, I just saw in the chat, Naga as well, like all these players just getting dumped after 30 days.
Oh, Aprita. I gotta bring up Aprita, sorry.
Yeah.
As well, from Chengdu. Like, what the hell? Was signed and then dropped before the season even started.
Yeah,
and then before this year too, there's been tons of situations like this. Like, I mean, to go even further back, like Vancouver or Valiant just kind of nuking their entire rosters seemingly with no repercussions, changing regions for the Valiant before like completely, now probably facing an entire rebrand. And to look at like the worst possible outcome from a player's perspective, this is like the worst case scenario for a lot of these players. If you're someone like Vulcan, and if you were doing multiple trials for Owl teams, and then you signed a contract for New York just to see 0 playtime, 0 exposure, 0 growth for your own personal development, that only hurts your chances moving forward. That doesn't mean you're now on the open market at the same level as before the season started. No one's looking for players like they were in the off season. Now you're almost like, worst case scenario, I don't presume this to be true, but teams could look at you now as like, oh, you're like used goods. New York didn't want you. Why would we want to sign you, kind of thing? This can hurt your chances as a player, and it's already hard enough to see representation for these players at an amateur level getting in. Like they're seeing better support now to the T2 and the collegiate scene. Again, we just talked about Mikey, worth bringing up again. Like we are seeing more player development moving up the chain there, but it's so hard. There's such an abundance of talent that just gets underrepresented at the league just because they don't get to shoot their shot. And this, I'm assuming from Vulcan's POV, felt like his chance to shoot a shot, even though it was definitely a weird option to go with New York. Maybe he had limited options going into the league. Maybe no one else offered him a contract, but wanted to continue trialing, and New York was the first one to offer, right? Maybe if another door had opened down the road, like things could have turned around, he could have been starting on Vancouver or something like that. And just to be a little bit anecdotal here, this reminds me a lot of when teams were starting in the Overwatch League and started getting Overwatch League spots. Did you guys ever hear about what happened with TSM before TSM didn't end up buying an Overwatch League spot?
I didn't, no.
I wish Arrow was here to tell the story, because he was meant to be head coach of Team SM for season 1 of the Overwatch League before they ended up not shilling out the money to buy a slot. And these are going to be some old name drops. I'm going to expose my age a little bit here to the Overwatch community. Connor J, Blam, names, anyone? These were big names back when Kungarna was tearing up the scene in North America. This was before Contenders, before Overwatch League existed. And most notably, Effect. Everyone knows that name, right? They were supposed to be signed for the original TSM roster, and all of these players set aside months of their time. We're talking like close to 6 months of their time where they were under contract. Turns out they weren't actually under contract. There was a lot of like weird stuff that came out. This was all like publicly tweeted by like Blam and Carnage, I think, at the time. I don't know all the details of it, but basically they were put on hold for so long, missed all of their opportunities to try out for teams who actually ended up buying league slots, and then were just completely left behind. They missed their chance to develop their skills, missed their chance to advertise themselves to teams, and then just got left behind the scene.
You're further behind than if you'd done nothing. Like I feel like Vulcan, if they had just stayed in Contenders or stayed in Open Division, they would have actually been in a better position than if they had signed with New York.
Yeah,
which sounds insane, right?
It does.
But that seems to be what these teams are getting away with. And yeah, unless we do actually see a players union, or unless miraculously something top down changes and they start writing language to be beneficial to players specifically, stuff like this will continue happening. And I'm not saying this is the case with Vulcan. It seems to be parting ways amicably between both parties in this case, but at its worst, this can be extremely detrimental to players.
Well, this was supposed to be brought in for COVID, where it was like, yeah, you need to pick up someone for a month because someone has COVID, I think is when they brought in the 30-day, and that's when like Decay came in and kicked the dicks off everyone on Zarya. And like it was
that was also not supposed to be able to happen, by the way.
Yeah Inspire as well.
Yeah, the whole Decay thing was a weird one for sure,
but I think that's why that rule was brought in, and now I feel like it's being like what I would say is abused. I feel like the players have no recourse and they're completely screwed. Like there's no buyout. It sounds like it's even like, okay, you get cut after 30 days, but we pay 3 months of salary or 6 months of salary, or like.
As far as I know, it's contract dependent. Like the players have to bid for their settlement when they sign the contract, where they have to like go back and forth with a lawyer. Yeah, these are 18-year-old kids with their first job. Like, who has the skills privately to do that? Unless you're represented by one of the good player agencies, which there's maybe 2 among like 50. Then you don't have the support you need for a situation like that. And I can hope like the parents and families and support staff around these players are doing their due diligence to make sure these players are getting what they're worth when they're signing these contracts. But I know it's not the case for the majority of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna harken back for a minute to collegiate because I think, my hope is that players, who are coming up through college right now, right, or are going to be getting into collegiate teams in the next 5 or 10 years, they'll come to expect the kind of treatment that they deserve in a professional setting. Yeah. Because honestly, it feels to me as though you're getting more support and more help going the collegiate route than you are the professional route in some cases. And as more and more players, I think, have that experience through collegiate, then they won't be, as ill-prepared or ignorant. And I'm not using those words in a negative sense, as if it's their fault, just as a statement of fact. So, again, this is looking well into the future, but I just hope that will come to pass, right? There's nothing that can be done for a lot of what's happened in the past at this point, but moving forward, maybe we can start to see some healthy change coming from that scene.
Yeah. Anyone wants to start an agency, I'm in.
Yeah. And one other change that the NYXL made was they made Flora their team captain and also retired Sabiobi's jersey, I believe. So that's
a nice little gesture.
I didn't realize
that's cool.
That teams did that a whole lot. So that's cool. Like, something not so good happening in New York, and something a little bit cooler, like Flora being the new captain, and then you got Sabiobi's jersey getting retired. So a couple cool things happening there, and just wanted to make a mention of that as well. And then there was more news in the Overwatch world this week with the Overwatch Pride celebration, Twitch Rivals. It's got a 250K prize pool, which is bananas, because like we did that Questline Open with a 10K prize pool, and people
lost their minds.
This is wild, and this is like 25 times that, or
this is like season 1 grand finals.
insane, but it's good to see.
This is awesome.
Really happy about this, because I think Activision Blizzard has missed the mark a lot with showing support for the LGBTQIA plus community, and of course we're gonna have to wait and see how it goes and everything, but all indications, at least from my perspective, are that this is fantastic. It's like a breath of fresh air. It's like I can almost feel relief in my body, that this is happening.
This is awesome.
I'm so excited, so happy for this. It's long overdue, but it's here, and I'm here for it.
It's happening next month, right? I don't think we've gotten further details than the dates.
It's starting on July 12th.
July 12th? Okay, so basically a month from today.
So
that'll be
details are still coming in. Like, they say it's to support the LGBTQIA plus community, but I don't think they know, or that we know exactly how that is going to manifest as of yet. There's not been too much information other than the date since the original announce. But it's wicked to see that it is happening, and that kind of support is out there, and hopefully it's the start of a lot of these kind of things happening.
I just think it's interesting that like Twitch is doing, because it's done by Twitch Rivals, which is like its own thing. The fact that they've chosen Overwatch as a game to do this, I find the most promising out of all of this.
That's interesting, actually, because they're direct competition with the Overwatch League on YouTube.
Well, not only that, but like there's a lot of like like Valorant, like
bigger games, more popular games right now.
You can say it. Ageless, and I'm asking this for all the people watching, definitely not myself. Do you know? Can you explain what Twitch Rivals is at all? Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot a bit there.
Well, Twitch Rivals is like its own like it's like I think it's like a Twitch competition thing that they do like on the Twitch side of things. Yeah,
it's almost like a game show.
Yeah, so they
play different games.
Yeah.
I've watched a couple. I've never, obviously, I'm not big enough as a streamer to participate in them, but I've watched a few with the big streamers, and what they do is like the last couple they've done has been like almost like an Olympic styles event where they play 4 different games and they have teams competing, and then they put forth members of the team to compete in each game, and then they rack up points based on how they perform in each game, and then they win at the end. So I'm guessing this will be a spotlight on LGBTQ plus creators, not just in the Overwatch space, but just on Twitch, and Overwatch is going to be part of that entire event. I don't know if it's going to be an Overwatch only event for 250k. That would be crazy. Maybe. I want to believe it. I think that'd be great for the game, and a great spotlight on Overwatch too. Wink, 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 nudge, nudge, Blizzard. Great opportunity. But I don't know that it is going to be just Overwatch, just that Overwatch is at least going to be involved.
Yeah. One other thing I'd like to add to this is that I hope that, with the promotion of this, that we also see more support on the Blizzard side of things internally for just, members of the LGBTQIA community, right? Within Activision Blizzard, because that's been an issue. It needs more work still needs to be done. We'll talk more about some of this here coming up pretty soon, but a lot needs to change about the culture at Activision Blizzard, and it sounds like in a lot of ways it's happening, but they're having to fight tooth and nail for it. So, hopefully this signals that there's also some kind of an internal change happening too.
Yeah, like imagine being like, please, Microsoft. Like, boy, I sure hope Microsoft brings a positive culture change to this company. What?
Yeah. Times have changed.
Yeah, that does really put it in perspective.
Like, the bar is so low, you need a shovel. Like, that's...
Yeah.
But
it's crazy, too.
There's hope. Like... That's the craziest part.
Overwatch is, like, as a game, like, the characters and the design of it is such, like, an inclusive game in space, just as an IP, right? So it's crazy to think like all this stuff, and I don't want to like get into it. It's been like we've talked about it before, like everyone's talked about it at this point. It's pretty much public knowledge at this point. But like to see such like disgusting and heinous like things come forward from a company that also made like this shiny little unicorn, it's so crazy that these things are coexisting. And I still believe that Overwatch is such a great step forward for the gaming space in general, because it is a very toxic, masculine defined space. That is slowly changing, but not nearly quick enough. And I think Overwatch is helping push in that direction, but it needs top-down support to make it actually happen. And we need stronger influence from the companies behind it, from the money behind all of these things to actually see this difference happen.
Yeah, it needs a top-down support, and it needs consistent support, right? This can't just be like a one-off flash in the pan. Like, hey, look, we did this, and now we're going back to our old bullshit.
Yeah, we filled our quota. Yeah.
The interesting thing with Microsoft is, as bad as it does sound, I feel like they're very much like corporate company, and I feel like they do answer to their shareholders and to their board maybe a little bit more than a company like Blizzard does, who has maybe like who's investing in Blizzard, right? Like it's either people who are like, early in, which are probably white dudes, or there are people who have watched this absolute dumpster fire of a company and been like, I'm still going to invest, which I feel like is probably the same demographic.
Yeah, people with too much money.
Yeah.
I think Microsoft, because they are so large, they might actually bring some sort of accountability to this kind of thing, because they actually are accountable. They can't be like, we're Blizzard, what are you gonna do? Not buy the new StarCraft or whatever? Like,
Oh, I wish there was a new StarCraft.
yeah.
I mean, just sticking with Activision Blizzard for right now, they made a bit of a surprising U-turn on their stance regarding unionization for some of their workers, which is really good to see, and it is a positive. With unions, especially over the last year or so, just generally in the world, you're starting to see an uptick in more job action and more worker organization, which is something that I follow fairly closely for my schooling. But it is good. This is good. We're seeing this unionization happening, and like Activision Blizzard's okay with it. But having said that, I think it is a bit of a PR move. It's something that you're going to want to take with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I think they're doing it just to help with the sale with Microsoft, just to kind of move it through quicker. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like Bobby Kotick was dragged kicking and screaming into this.
Good.
Yeah, which needs to happen, because it needs to be kicked to the curb, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, I like the dragging part, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what a shit stain of a human. Like, you can't hold me on that.
After hearing like all the talk about like his business deals and like the way he would just like make deals by pressuring people into it, I was like, this is like the worst of capitalism, like in human form. It's just it's so disheartening to see that this is like how things actually get done in the business world. Like, it's not by it's literal lizard people wearing human suits. Like, there's no morality behind things, there's no purpose, it's just money grubbing. And it's as what I like to hopefully hold myself accountable as like a real human being, it's disheartening to see that the whole show is just being pulled by strings, and like everything is just there's no point, and then Overwatch 2 might come out. Good luck.
Yeah. Well, remember, kids, the world isn't dying; it's being killed, and those people that are killing it have names and addresses.
This show is taking a turn.
That is a beautiful message for this dystopian future we're all living in, and you're also absolutely right to continue taking a turn.
and
it was eventually going to happen.
Well, while we're on this topic, I did want to mention as well, Keywords Studios, which is under the Ubisoft umbrella. They're in like Mass Effect and stuff like that. Their QA testers have voted unanimously for a union as well, and the Alberta Labor Board has approved it. They're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, so that's like my neck of the woods. So I did want to give them a quick shout out as well, because just tangentially over the years hearing stories about if you're a QA worker specifically in the video game world, it's like a living, waking nightmare. So
you're treated like fodder.
Starts to change as well, and like just looking at these two separate acts kind of together, you're starting to see more of that, and hopefully this is like the start of some momentum for other workers, for other labor organization to happen, and hopefully this is starting to change what the industry standard is and how the industry are treating its workers, especially in like the video game space.
Yeah, it's like the Ravensoft one is quite a small union. It's like 28 people or something. But I think it sets the precedent pretty effectively. And we saw it even we're seeing in the US, like a single Starbucks will unionize. And then, people are like, oh, okay, you can actually do that.
It's possible.
And, yeah, it is possible. And I think I would like to see, we just talked about the players. They've been talking about a players union since season 1. Like, Seagull, I think, went to players and was like, hey, if you want to do this, we can do it, but we need to do it. Like, Blizzard is never going to unionize for us. Clearly, they haven't. So I think that seeing more of this, gaming is definitely it's obviously a newer industry, but you see it in theater, you see it in music, you see it in film. It's a lot of these passion industries where there's a ton of people that like being involved in it because it's a really fun, exciting, creative, artistic space to be in. And everyone can contribute if they're everyone should be allowed to contribute. So it's really easy to be like, oh, you don't want to do this job for $1 an hour. That's too bad because there's a bunch of people who just got
500
out.
other people will. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really tough to, and then it just becomes, it's a race to the bottom for people who have existing resources. Like, yeah, I can totally do this job for $1 an hour because I'm independently wealthy. So like, it pulls the floor out from everyone, which is really unfortunate. So I hope more of these gaming companies get into unionization. You always hear about crunch. You always hear about these like horrific sweatshop factory companies building these games. It would be really nice to feel good buying a game.
Yeah. Feel good about the industry as a whole.
Yeah. So hopefully some more unionization.
And with all the stuff that's come out with Activision Blizzard and that, like, there was a time, like, because we're all tied to Overwatch to like create content, like cast or do things of that nature. Like there was a time where I was like, do I want to keep doing this with this game, with this
for real?
Like, do I want to support what has happened, right? And obviously we're all still here, and it's good to see that these changes are started. And like we've said, even though they're just little, like hopefully it builds to more and more, and this can, to use a word from earlier, just snowball and get more of that stuff going.
I think it's easy to be like, yeah, Blizzard's a trash fire company, I'm bailing. That's definitely like a completely valid choice to make, and I think there's no, there's obviously no downside to that, to being like, fuck this, you are the worst. But it is really nice to see that good people are like staying, and kind of like fighting that fight.
100%.
The community is kind of what we make of it. So I hope the people that do stick around continue to add and contribute and improve that community. And for the most part, like I think a lot of the people that we've worked with have been fantastic, and it's been like a pleasure. And this has been a long slog, especially the last couple of years. Like the people still running like community tournaments now.
Yeah. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Sailor Nips, you're an all-star. That man is single-handedly keeping like a substantial portion of this community alive. I want to say here too, something really important that I want to get in is that one of the most important things I think that we can do right now is to support the people in the company, right? They're still there because they love what they do. They love the game. They have to love most of their coworkers. And I still know there's so many people excited about the future of Blizzard, right? There's a young woman who goes to school at UC Boulder, Ruby, who's on the CU Boulder team, who's just a phenomenal Overwatch player, and she landed an internship with Blizzard this summer, right? And so I mean, we're still seeing people who are really just getting their start in esports, in this esports career, still excited about this company, still excited about the products they put out. And it's because I think there's so many incredibly passionate people who have come together under one roof to do something amazing. And those are the people that I want to support. Those are the people I'm here for, that I'm still here for, because like you said, NewBeat, like a lot of us questioned, our continued involvement in Overwatch because of how Activision Blizzard has treated so many of its employees. And I started to branch out into other games for that reason, but I am still here for the people who are making this game happen and still bringing amazing and beautiful content to us. So that's why I'm here, and that's why I want to encourage everybody to continue supporting it. We can enjoy this game, and we can also call people out for their bullshit at the same time.
Yeah, you can do both. You can do both. And I mean, I've tried branching into other games. I'm just very bad at them, so that's still a work in progress.
Talk to me. I'll help you out, man. Yeah.
Yeah, we tried Halo. Halo sucks. We tried Splitgate. Splitgate's just Halo, but way harder.
I wanted Splitgate to take off so
Yeah,
bad. You
Splitgate
have
was super
no
cool.
idea. Oh my god, I wanted that one to
The
take off
first
so
week
hard.
is-
It's a very cool game.
I think we
Yeah.
talked about this before. The first week of Splitgate, we thought we were gods. Yeah, we talked about that with Kobe, and then it turns out like made it very hard after that. So
Have you ever played like complete tangent just to lighten the air a little bit? This is really
Yeah.
important stuff. But just to lighten the air, but have you ever played like the arcade game modes in like Splitgate? I forget what they're called, but there's one where everyone has super speed and all you have is the bat, and you're just running around smacking each other with the bat. It's kind of like Halo 3 Zombies, but just like everyone's going back, and it's like team deathmatch. It's like 4-on-4, and everyone's just going at hyper speed, hitting each other with the bat, and you've got like jetpacks, right? So you're flying all over the place. It's great. It's my favorite game mode, and I played it recently with the collegiate team as a team building exercise I was working with, and we had a blast. We had like an hour booked for just like this team building activity. We were there for like 3 hours, just running around, batting people around. It was great.
I love it.
all right, that's it. We're gonna have to do a high ground team building exercise and play.
Yeah, just play
I'm here
Splitgate.
for it.
That shit's so hard. It's just it's Halo 3. You have to also have brains.
I've never felt like simultaneously like an absolute god hitting shots across the map, and then like an absolute moron 3 seconds later when someone just walks up behind me because I forgot about a portal. Like,
Yeah. What it reminds me of is Titanfall, when Titanfall came out, because it punished a lack of mobility. Like in old Call of Duties, it'd be like, yeah, I found the hallway where everyone runs down, and I have a shotgun, and I sat in this corner, and I just racked up
choose
a
to
like
win the game.
yeah, I have a 10-0 KD. And then in Titanfall, it was like, oh, someone's camping. I'm gonna sprint up the side of a building, crash through the window, shoot them in the face, and then like grappling hook out. And this was like unheard of. It was like mobility was everything. And I feel like the same thing with Splitgate, where it makes you a better FPS player in general. You are thinking about your environment. You're thinking about everything that's going on around you, and you cannot like tunnel vision on anything, because someone could just show up. Someone could literally just make a portal like nothing personnel kid right behind you.
Dude, the first time I played Splitgate and somebody shot me through a portal, I just thought they were cheating. I'm like, you can't. What's going on?
It just makes you a better player.
You know,
I
shooting across planes.
You have something near and dear to my heart, Ageless, which is just mobility. Mobility in FPS games, I think mobility adds more to an FPS game than just about anything else. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. That's why I love Wrecking Ball. It makes the game so much more dynamic, so much more exciting, and it gives players so much more agency. And player agency, at the end of the day, is, I think, what makes a game great, right? It's why players it's why characters like May suck, right? Because they take away player agency. You know, I'm being a little too hard on May, but it's
you're not. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think you're in a safe space.
I want to make the point that it's when you take away player agency, it makes it less fun. It just does.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. That's why everyone hates Sombra.
Exactly. Same thing.
Another very important mechanic in FPS games is aim, and we mentioned him a bit earlier, but I wanted to point out Logix as a kind of diamond in the rough. I know everyone knows who Logix is at this point from being on the Toronto Defiant, but my word, he had a play in Contenders this weekend that was out of control. And while Harvester brings up that clip for us, I'm just going to read this comment from Barack166 on Reddit, who said, and I want you to keep this in mind when you watch the clip, if I had clipped an Anna like that, I would sound a lot less chill than Anna dead, because that's the only call out he made at the time. When he comes through this high ground and then like one clips the Anna on the low ground, it's absolutely bananas. I don't even know like how you do that. It's truly insane what Logix does. Here it comes. So he's gonna go down and just how do you do that?
Yeah.
Anna made the fatal mistake of showing her head on screen.
Yeah.
Uploading to the map.
Yeah.
That's
Existing.
Coaching.
Yeah. Your main problem here is you are existing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Logix is.
But
We're actually going to come back. This has been like the Logic show. I think this is actually the Toronto Defiant fan podcast.
All right, now that KDG's out, Logic's back to Toronto.
I mean,
honestly,
KDG's gone, so.
Logic's head coach, Toronto, 2022.
I'm just happy I don't have to say KDG anymore because I have been struggling with that all day.
Yeah.
Tough one.
I wonder where it comes from.
It's his initials.
Yeah,
that's. I should have guessed. That's a boring answer.
Come on, you've been around Overwatch for how long now?
There's some cool ones with like Korean names that I never would have guessed. Like, there's some names that come about just because that's like what they would type to get the Korean characters for their name, and then it's just like happened to be a word or like in some initials in English and something like that. There's some other ones like the number 2 in names in Korean makes the E sound. So like you'll see names like that don't seem to make a sense with a 2 in them, but then they make sense when you think about it in Korean with the sound.
Yeah, I want to say Petal is a 2 in their name. I don't know.
I think they have a 9.
Yeah.
Don't call me on that one.
I want to know more about these IGMs now. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Maybe old man.
I think it was Hacksal's name is like Slaughter in Korean or something like that.
Oh really?
Because he played Genji so well, like he just did stuff like it was like some crazy word like slaughter, like evisceration or something.
Yeah.
That's so
and it's just a fantastic name for a Genji player. Ageless, you wanted to talk about D&D and laser battles for a moment?
Well, haven't we been doing that for a while now?
Yeah, that's as far as our like community fluff goes. One of my favorite things is watching mainstream news cover esports or video games. And yeah, a year ago, Murray wouldn't have dreamed that his son could get money for college by playing Overwatch, a kind of digital Dungeons and Dragons with laser battles. He didn't know colleges has competitive gaming teams, and certainly never heard of them in high schools. There's no other frame of reference. Dungeons and Dragons with laser battles.
I hope I'm never this out of touch.
Like Super Mario's not new. Like you could have gone with that.
What's funny to me is like the boomer crowd that is the only demographic that would relate things this way have like a super negative outlook on Dungeons and Dragons too. Don't they like tied to like Satanism? I don't know if you guys have been watching Stranger Things, but this is a big.
There was satanic panic.
Exactly that. So like, what's funny to me is like this. It's not just the correlation of Dungeons and Dragons, Overwatch somehow being merged together in the same sort of correlation here, but it's like the implication that this is their only frame of reference probably puts a super negative light on Overwatch and all video games as well. I love it. I love boomers trying to get into esports and just failing miserably. I think it's great. This is our culture.
I like the phrase laser battles because it just evokes like a mental image of like an 80s like sci-fi epic in space, like not necessarily Star Wars, like something way worse than Star Wars, but still like, like you know where like you have like a space unicorn or something like that.
To be fair, one of our flagship characters is a monkey who can talk from the moon with a laser cannon. To be perfectly fair.
Yeah, that is super fair actually. But just like you're like man, like how can we piss off everyone at once with one sentence? Is like this is like if you hate Overwatch, you're still kind of mad.
I've tried explaining Dungeons and Dragons to my dad, who is 68 years old, and I explained it like this is how you like roll initiative and this is how you use the dice. And he just looked at me and went like after like a 10-minute explanation, he was just like, this is too complicated. I'm gonna stick with snakes and ladders, and just walked out of the room. So I gave it a shot, but I get it. Sometimes you just can't get through.
But like every time it's covered, it's always like they play video games for money. Is like how it goes every single time. They're like, that's so crazy. People watch these people play video games. That's nuts. They're not even playing the game. They're watching someone else play the game. This is crazy. We've never heard of someone else playing a game and people watching it before. Not in humanity's existence has anyone watched soccer, hockey, football, basketball, any of these things.
I was gonna say like the Colosseum, like the gladiator fights, like thousands of years ago. Like
people watch other people play pool.
Darts is fun to watch. Have you ever seen darts?
People play golf.
Yeah, but I mean, like, pool is really it for me. Like, this is just such a hobby. Like, or like poker.
Harvester feels personally attacked now because I know he loves watching golf.
But like, we watch people play poker, and like so many people watch it.
That one I don't get. That one, like every other one that we've mentioned.
Poker's basically a video game.
I get why like people would watch that, like even if I don't like it. Poker's like, guys, what are we doing here? This is
That's what I do enjoy watching. I kind of get a kick out of it. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I don't know. There's something to me about like trying to see if I can get in the head of the person who's bluffing and be like, "Was that their tell?" So something along those lines. But
fair enough.
Tangent.
Totally.
That's basically what Goat's meta came down to. But at the end of the day, like it was like players looking across the aisle at the players on the other side. It's like, are you gonna use bubble? Like,
but like, every esports coverage is like, isn't it crazy that that people watch them play video games? So seeing this is what always some of my favorites.
And you could always frame it this way too. It's like I go to university. And they have a Quidditch team at my university. A Quidditch team.
That's more made up than Overwatch.
They're running around with brooms like you can't fly. It's not working. What do you?
I want to see. Okay, real talk though. Harry Potter Quidditch esport when? When is the open world PvP Quidditch game coming out?
We already have all the pieces. You have the problematic person that created it. You have a bunch of nerds willing to invest a ton of money. That's
true.
It's AK Kodik.
Oh my god. You're right. Like, why isn't this already a huge success?
How is it not? How is Robert Kraft not dumped 20 million into this already?
We gotta delete this recording and get into business.
Yeah, we gotta get our patent going.
Oh my god, that's just wild.
I'm worse for saying that. Okay.
So yeah, moving on. We'll just move on. Like we won't even segue. We're just gonna move on. We did want to give a shout out to Lemon Kiwi, beloved caster who worked on the Quest Open, current Overwatch League caster. Phenomenal caster. A shout out to Lemon Kiwi for saying "fire twuck" on stream. It's hilarious every time. Don't stop. But I guess she recently contracted COVID, so has not been feeling very well at all. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Lemon Kiwi, just one of my favorite casters and somebody who I've learned a lot from, to be honest, even though I've never actually talked to her one-on-one. She has taught me more about casting than most other people, I think, even if she doesn't know it.
Yeah, when we got into casting, we went on the like broadcast.gg website, like watched the like how to shoutcast Overwatch video with Lemon Kiwi.
Juggle's nodding his head because he's heard me plug that video like 1,000 times.
No, it was not even that. It was the video. It was the very first video I watched on it too. Was the one with Lemon Kiwi and Mushu Beef.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I watched that before my very first cast at Owlet, which was a great organization. Same org that oh god, I feel terrible. I'm forgetting her name now. Oh, this is awful. Because I owe so much to her as well. The other caster who just got pulled up to Overwatch League as well. Necra. She got her start in Owlet as well.
Oh, really?
Super nice person. Really, yeah. She actually gave me my very first VOD review. So, yeah, if you don't like my work, you can blame her.
Yeah, Necra.
Yeah.
Take it straight to Microsoft.
Yeah, no, but you know. Oh god, where the hell was I going with this? I've forgotten every single point I was trying to make. We were talking about Necra, going back to Owlet. Owlet was where I got my start. Lemon Kiwi and Mushu Beef, right? They did that. They had that video on how to shoutcast, and yeah, I owe a lot of my early success, honestly, to that video.
Yep, me too. And
I need to watch this video. Apparently,
my first.
It's good,
my
honestly.
first VOD review was actually done by Dryad, who does like
that's
European
awesome.
characters and stuff. So yeah, so it's casting's a small world at the end of the
It
day.
is, and
Yeah,
it's
especially in
really fun
Overwatch.
too. Yeah, but yes, get well, Lemon Kiwi. We miss
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Casual reminder
Necro
too.
now.
Yeah, casual reminder too. Everyone in the U.S. apparently, COVID is still a thing. We're posting record numbers again. Please believe it's real. I
Yeah,
told you guys a
Canada.
while ago. I ended up going to that convention in Dallas during the same weekend that the Kickoff Clash was going on. I just completely skirted around that one, and there was no actual support for mask mandates. There was no like vaccination proving of anything. I went and got tested recently. I'm still waiting on results to that, but like it's like people are like it's great being back to normal. It's great being in events in person, I'm sure, but like it's still very much the plague is going around. There's still people that you know and that you care about getting sick from this very deadly disease, and it's like it's pretty frustrating as just as a person trying to partake in public spaces, seeing just like little to no respect for any sort of, and we're not getting any support from our government here in the States, unfortunately, and it doesn't seem like Canada's doing too much better off
We have like
either,
coffee
but
booths at every event still.
yeah.
No, I mean, I live in the Texas of Canada, so I know exactly what you're going through. If anyone watching from Alberta is like, yep, yeah, that's what that is. Just
I think there
heavily
is
relying on
someone.
oil and conservative politicians. is
Just wait till you get your own power grid. It'll be great.
Oh, it's real. Yeah, that's the really
never had
exciting
a
part.
problem. Never had a
Then-
problem.
So,
Then you get to use a flashlight to have someone cough in your mouth.
so if anyone out there doesn't believe at this point that this COVID thing is still real, talk to me. I literally wrote my graduate school thesis on coronavirus. I was
Oh,
a
cool.
virologist before I became a juggler, before I became a
I have-
shoutcaster.
Oh, wow.
I forgot how talented. Like I know how talented you are, but you're so talented. I forget you have like more talent. on top of
The
other
deep
talent.
lore.
It's
The
just
deep
like-
can go even further beyond.
and like I read somewhere too, like Lemon Kiwi has a grade in microbiology. So
Oh shit, she is?
yeah, so
Oh my
not, she's no dummy
Full
either.
circle.
Like I can't
I would
do
love to
science stuff,
chat
man. That's-
microbiology with Lemon
that's
Kiwi.
like I'm
Also,
a
there's
history
a brand new sentence. Like, whoever thought they would say that?
Yeah,
Can you imagine how stoked she gets about microbiology? That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
I
having to
love
deal
to
with
hear Lemon
Overwatch all day.
Viruses. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing.
This is bleeding into a lot of different kind of areas of interest because like I am a history major that covers largely unionization in North America in like the 70s. So that I've already got to talk about that. We've hit some of the virology
Really cool.
stuff now.
Yeah.
Aegis, do you have any degrees I don't know about, Tikatee? Any degrees?
I'm really good at Guitar Hero. But
Love that game.
That's the same.
So like, are you, are you-
no, I've dropped out of 2 colleges. I've gotten no degrees, and I stumbled my way into esports, and here I am.
are you
Dude,
like
that's awesome,
in the
actually.
fire and the flames on expert good?
That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
I was
I-
wondering too. No.
I can't full combo it or anything like that, but I'm a purist personally, so I don't do like 2-handed taps. So I only do one-handed playing. So I'm not actually, I'm not like competition level good. But when I was in high school, I did win like local competitions. I won my first real electric guitar from a Guitar Hero competition.
That's incredible.
So
For
cool.
some reason, I can just picture you playing in a Guitar Hero competition, so that makes a perfect sense. Like honestly, that I haven't thought about Guitar Hero in so long, and I play Rocksmith like every day. But like,
Oh,
Guitar
nice, yeah.
Hero, man, that's wild.
Do you see they're making a new Rocksmith? They're remastering it.
It's been delayed. It's going to be on a subscription service. It's not looking great.
Oh,
So
Some micro-
they have modern gaming in their battle passes.
It's yeah. It's easy.
The Axe Battle Pass.
Yeah, so-
that's good.
It's so moving on. I just wanted to have a little quick rant. Harvester, if you could get the photo up for me. There it is. I hate this goddamn light stand so much. And I just wanted to say it in front of everybody in the world and have it on recording streamed. I hate this light stand. I don't know if you've ever come out of spawn. I don't know if it's just me showing how low of an elo I play at, but I get stuck on this light stand all the time, and it drives me absolutely bananas. Like, just, why is it there? It's not even like it's plugged in, but it's not even on. It's not even.
No, and it doesn't even look like it's actually aimed at the green screen either.
Exactly.
Like, let's take a moment to talk about that too, right? Like, it's clearly
It's literally
not that
casting a
it's
shadow
aimed
onto the green screen.
at- You're right.
Yeah.
It actually is.
It's doing the opposite of its job right now.
Like,
And it just catches your first blink, like especially when you're like loading back from respawning. And you're like blink, and like sometimes it loads. Like you're able to move before your like vision loads, I guess. And you get your first blink out as Tracer, and you're like, I'm stuck on this fucking lamp again.
yeah, I just absolutely loathe it with every fiber of my being, and I just wanted to say that on
Man,
here.
I'm
So
learning a
we-
lot about Overwatch maps today. We got the spray painting robot on Hanamura. We
Yeah.
got the Devil's Light stand on Hollywood.
Yeah, you want to talk about something that came from Satan? That light stand.
Yeah, it actually started because we were talking about how shitty this light stand is, and then Harvester. That's a good point. How is the light stand casting a shadow with no other lights in the room? Because it's the light.
It casts darkness.
It's like antimatter. But yeah, we started talking about the light stand, and then Harvester, our producer, was like, "You know what else is so stupid? That stupid painting robot on Hanamura." So now it's the thing. Now we're just gonna look at stuff
felt
that
bad-
shouldn't exist.
I felt bad for you, Ageless, because you were in a chat with me and Harvester, and we're twins. So you're listening to both of us just bitch about these random things on maps. You must have just instead of like, oh god, at least it's content. Like,
just add it to the
least it's
notes,
content.
whatever.
yeah.
Oh,
Juggle, I know you had a tweet as well you wanted to show us.
yeah, I got to rant for a minute. So it's I apologize because I just noticed, like, as we were honestly going through this, like, your alls were so much more lighthearted. And before the podcast today, I was trying to, I was like, what do I want to rant about? And Twitter delivered. And,
You don't say.
yeah, right. And this is an actual rant. I want to find something lighthearted to rant about after this, because I don't want to leave on like a downer or anything. But this pissed me off. This I don't know, jerk off of a human made a suicide joke on Twitter. He's a writer for Dexterto. Like, you can't do that shit. Like, that's not cool. I mean, we don't allow that stuff in our kinds of games. We report people for saying things like this. So
Oh, yeah,
I
we
just had to rant about it and
that.
say, like, do better. Come on. Like, this is not okay. Like, we all need to do so much better about making this a safe space for everybody. And video games for so many people are an escape. They're a source of fun and release. And to say something like this is such a public setting when you have such a huge following as well, just grossly irresponsible. And Dexter2 doesn't even seem to give a shit about it either. I tweeted to them about it and nothing's happening with it, and I doubt nothing will. But anyway, that's the end of my rant. I just had to get that out because it literally pissed me off like very shortly before this podcast. So
Yeah, the person in question being Halo as well. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we all have our own thoughts about Halo as a journalist is the word I'll use.
like Fox News is a journalism source.
I've had my share of negative interactions with Halo, being when we were on the Dallas Fuel. There was like a lot of stuff that blew up. But he, regardless of whether or not we like him, he is a prominent figure in the Overwatch community for what he does in terms of covering a lot of off-season stuff, and a lot of like leak threads and stuff like that do spur from him. And again, just to double down on what you're saying, Juggle, like, to have such a big platform where people are literally looking up to you, and then to not be able to censor these kinds of things out of what you post online is just not how you need to compose yourself in any public setting, period. But especially not when you're put on a pedestal by young, impressionable fans in an esports community, in a very young, impressionable community and stuff like that. So yeah, already, like, be better. But in addition to that, like, when you have a platform, be beyond better, be the best human being to look up to, be worthy of being looked up to, kind of thing.
With great power comes great
And,
responsibility.
like,
Exactly.
we talked earlier about people like maybe not getting into esports and playing as like producers or observers. Like, I mean, producers is like finding a drummer in a band. You could never find one. But like, esports journalism is another thing, right? That you
Yeah.
can get into, and there's probably people that look up to Halo and say, I want to do this too, and like this is not okay to behave in this manner. It's great.
Well, and
I also hate it.
there is, I think, in a lot of sports, I know it's really big in the NBA, like leakers. It's like a legit thing. This is like their job. They report on speculation. They usually have better sources than everyone. Sure. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's you can't. Yeah.
It
just
emboldens
be
people.
better. Yeah. It's just like be better with this stuff, and like, yeah, I don't know. It's really easy to go down this road, and it's a bummer. Because like I do think Halo does fill a role in the scene that like as much as it is like kind of annoying, it does keep a lot of engagement happening in the off season, which is sorely missed because Blizzard and Overwatch League in general don't seem to. They just they go on holiday and they don't even turn on an out of office.
Yeah.
They just like don't answer their emails for like 7 months a year. So I do think
it is an important part of the scene. I agree.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
coming from the POV, just to get like a little bit of my POV there and a bit of backstory of Halo, like this isn't anything personal against me. I've never talked to him individually or anything like that. But I've heard reports of teams like who've had trades fall through because of leaks coming out too early and because of fan reactions to leaks that have been stemmed out of Halo's reporting and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a good example as well. Yeah, like there's little things like that where like they will twist public perception before an organization or a team is ready to get ahead of things and stuff like that, and that just makes everyone involved look bad, and it spins like a negative light around a lot of things, except for the leakers, like, ooh, I'm just this benevolent reporter bringing the facts forward kind of thing. And when it comes down to like the competitive side of things, like when trades are falling through because of something like that, I think that's dumb in the first place, that organizations would be swayed by public perception in the first place. But when it affects like your job, that sucks. And that shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and moving on, I think to something a little bit more positive. We saw a crazy end to
Kind
the
of.
EU finals for the Open Division. Well, no, it definitely is. I don't know why I said kind of.
No, it is kind of.
But the OD Open Division EU finals. So we got Team Peps versus Munich Esports. We kind of did mention earlier. There was a really nice kind of motivational speech from Get Amazed before one of the maps. Ageless, like I know you've seen this. Do you want to kind of set this up?
Yeah, this is Get Amazed talking to Team Peps. I think I guess before Lee Jiang Tower. So it gives a very like Dead Poet Society, but also Dead Poet Society, but like also fuck KDG speech at the same time, which I thought was really interesting because it really starts like super Dead Poet Society, and then it like quickly grounds itself back into the world of Overwatch and esports. I loved it. I think it was great as far as seeing the this arc of Logics, and how much
This is the animated redemption arc for sure.
This absolutely. We thought it was Fearless. We thought it was Dia. It's Logics. I don't know. Can we watch this with sound?
I didn't realize you had the recording of this. This is exciting. I haven't gotten to hear this yet.
Oh, this is Reddit. I'm not actually good at anything.
This was ripped
really
off someone's FDGod's stream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, but regardless, I'm just regardless of where it comes from, I'm just thrilled we have it now. We can listen to it.
Are we able to watch it with sound? Oh, we have sound. That's exciting. Yeah, we're ready. Let's... This is like Wins tweeting from the payload. I don't know if we can hear it.
Literally our last tournament ever on Overwatch 1, okay? We've been like practicing for like literally months and stuff, okay? Every effort, every sacrifice, everything we went like through like this last month, we just do it now, okay? So doesn't matter if we are tired, like we are like hesitating or anything, just go super fucking hard, okay? Like whatever happens, we're gonna win, okay?
Yes.
So everyone relax, be confident, and we just like fuck them in the ass. I would say some big logics, but I don't know if it's a bad thing. Can I say it still?
Go on.
Prove to KDG that he was wrong.
French left.
Let's fucking go! KDG on point. First to touch his ball. Nice, Mingus. Let's go! Good job.
Pas pro les gars, let's go.
C'est bon les gars, allez!
The speech is like, yeah, he is wrong. Also, let's get out there and fuck them in the ass. It's like a speech. You're like, all right, cool. That's where, and they did it. It worked. So, yeah, as much as everyone was tweeting like, DPay and Get Amazed to Vancouver, I don't know. After that speech, I feel like they should have grabbed Get Amazed. Maybe they still will.
And now they'll sign Logix as well.
And I'd bring Psycho back.
Yeah. Well, Get Amazed, I think because I was doing, research before my OD cast, and if I remember correctly, he was coach from Paris Eternal, right?
He was.
Remembering that correctly?
Was for last year, right? Before he didn't get re-signed this year.
Yeah.
And he's also coached with Team Saudi Arabia. And he's been a high level. He was playing in this tournament in Open Division as off tank, and he's also been like a high rated player as well. I don't know if he played contenders or that high, but I know he got his rounds initially as a player.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's somebody who I think, deserves more and deserves to be back, at the highest level.
Yeah, and it was pretty bittersweet because like Munich Esports is a team that we've worked with a couple times. With Julian, who was part of the Questline Open. He was one of the hosts that we had, and he is their kind of like GM. So it was like cool to see Munich Esports come back. We had like Trust Me, who had been kind of a storied player throughout our tournament, and obviously a completely monster of an off-tank player. So it was cool. Like I like tuned in, and I think Adam was like, "Oh, they're up 2-0 over Peps," and I was like, "Okay, what?"
Yeah,
This was a team that was like seemed very like European one-dimensional, I'll say, where it was like, what if we played Rush?
Question mark? Yeah,
like it's this
that's it,
idea.
Yeah.
Like Tikatee's favorite team.
Yeah,
Ace is high, baby.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Zarya to get nerfed, for Doomfist to get nerfed, and then London to plow through the competition. And we see teams even like Shock leading into some like Ryan Rush play. If Shock's gonna do it, it's a real strat. And London's setting the pace of the Overwatch League right now.
They brought Mikey
just to be able to contend with London.
Yeah, so they have a chance. Glad. So
that's my rant of the week, I think.
And honestly, I don't think there's any better way to end it. Just like that, that is going to be episode 7 of Highground. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you Harvester for doing all the production. We love you. Tikatee, Ageless, always fun. Juggle, thank you so much for being our very special guest today. I hope we have you back again. It was a blast talking with you, and really appreciate everything you brought with you today. And with that, I'm NewBeat saying once again, thank you for watching. We will not see you next week, but we will be back 2 weeks from now on the Monday, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we will see you later.